Alright. Hello everyone. This is a tutorial on how to make a dynamic customizable door. Unity. Newest update, the 2017. Feel like there's a lot of tutorials on how to make doors online, but there's not enough that provide information on how to customize it. So I've decided to make a video to show you how to do that. We'll be able to change the angle using the rotation values of the X, Y, and the Euler angles. You'll be able to put them in the inspector and be pretty straightforward. We'll also go into raycasting. We're not going to be using colliders. We want to make sure that the player is looking at the door when they want to interact with it, and we'll be using tags, and I'll show you how to make a base class for polymorphism. Basically an interactable base class that you can make anything that you want the raycast to activate. And I'll show you how to do that later on. But first things you're going to need, I've got a scene open here. It's a bunch of free assets. First thing you'll need, if you head over to the asset store, if you don't have the tab open, you can go to window, click asset store, and it'll open up. And you can dock it wherever you want. And if you search door and highlight the free only, it'll pop up right here. Just click it and download, and then you'll be able to import it. That's this folder, and then the other one is the characters. And if you go to assets in the top left corner, do import package, and you'll get this drop down, and you click characters, and you'll import that, and that way we'll have the characters right here. I basically just opened the standard scene in the horror hospital or hospital horror pack right here, and drag the player in. So we're going to be animating this door here. Well, not animating, but we'll be doing this all in script. For the next thing we're going to do is create a new folder, name it scripts, and create a C# script. We'll name it door. Another C# script, name it raycast. You can name these whatever you want. I just name them like this so I know what they are. Open these up. You may have mono develop. I like Visual Studio, but personal preference. Either one will work. Alright. So we'll handle the raycast first. And this is basically going to send out from our camera using the forward each frame, and it'll check to see what's in front. So we need to give it a distance, so we'll make that a public float. Interact distance, and we'll give it a default value of 2. You can change this to whatever you want depending on your game. And so we need to make a ray. We're going to send it out from the transformed opposition, so the position of the camera, and the transform forward for the direction, and that's it. So that's creating our ray. The next thing is we need to capture the information. So we're going to make a variable for that called raycast hit, and just name it hit and this is what's going to store our information. We're going to say if physics.raycast and we're using the ray that we created earlier, out hit, store the information, and the distance that we created as well. So it's basically saying if we hit something, and it's going to return that object we hit, and we can get information from the object. And what we're going to be doing is comparing the tag. So we're going to do if hit, so the information, the object that we hit, dot collider dot compare tag, and we're going to make the tag interact. We haven't made it yet, and this is where we will do something. So now that we're on the subject, let's go back, go to the door, and to make sure that whatever door you're using, make sure the root or the pivot is at the edge of where the rotation is going to be happening with the door. If it's not, it's going to rotate around a different route, and this should be something that's handled in the 3D model. If not, you'll have to create your own empty object, parent it, and move that empty object so that, or move the child object so that it falls onto the root. But you shouldn't have to do that if your 3D modeler is handling that themselves, which they should be. So like this one is already set in the right position. So we're going to go to the tag area up here. We're going to add a new tag, and we'll name it the same thing that we did before, interact. Make sure you go back, set it. And then one other thing we need to do is add a collider to the door so we can hit it. Gotta resize this quick. Okay. Now we can actually check to see if this is working. Say stop. Hit something. Double check everything here. Oh, don't forget to add the Raycast script to your player camera, not the player. And see how it's detecting that we're hitting something 147 times. So it's doing it every frame. As soon as I walk into it, it shows up. All right. And we can go ahead and create something else here. Create another if statement because we want the player to click E. You can set this up with keys. I'm not going to do that here. You can set up input events inside the actual engine, but I'm not going to do that here just for time's sake. So we'll say if input dot get key down, and we'll use key code dot E. It's basically saying if we press the E key, There we go. Simple mistakes. Everybody makes them. Alright, so now when we walk in, it's no longer popping up as soon as we get into range, but if I click, there it goes. Click again. See. Activate. Yeah, working. Alright, so now we got our raycast detecting the door. So that's the easy part. Next is the door script itself. So we're going to need a lot of variables because we're going to have a lot of customization. I'm going to add sound and everything as well. So here we go. We're going to need a public float open smooth. This is going to control the speed at which the door opens. Default it to 1. And we'll also add another variable, close smooth. Default it to 1 as well. All right. And we're going to need a couple more things. A public float open x, default it to 0. We're going to take this, copy it, and paste it. We're going to need one for each of X, Y, and Z. And we're going to paste it 3 more times for all of this. Change this to close. All right. So now that we have the angles that we can customize in the inspector, we can go ahead and start our first things first. I said that we were going to be using polymorphism. So I will set that up. First things first, we'll need to create another script called this interact base. Open it up. Right. And we're just going to give it one, what's called a virtual function. So we'll say public virtual void activate. We don't have to put anything in it right now. So this is basically gonna saying that this interact base will always, no matter what it is, if we inherit from it, it'll always have, you can override this activate function. And you can customize it and without having to change the name activate. So I'll show you. Save that. So when we inherit from it, we're going to change this mono behavior to interact. There it is, interact base. And so now we can say public override void activate. It'll automatically put this base activate, which is calling the parent function. And if you know anything about that, it basically just calls this function here and does what this needs to do first, and then you can do whatever you want. Since it's empty and the parent function, we don't need to do this. In this way, you can create other things that inherit from this interact base that all use the same activate function, and you can give it customization. So what we're gonna do next is basically, this is where it becomes powerful. Change this now. We're gonna say hit to the object that we are interacting with. We're back in the Raycast script. When we press E while we're facing that interact tagged object, we're going to take that object. We're going to say hit.collider.getComponent interact, important, interact base dot activate. And what this is going to do is it's going to call this activate function on anything, even if it's inheriting, that has this base, interact base. So when I interact with the door, it'll call this activate. If I have another object that also has the tag interact, it'll activate that. And if, as long as the script that's on it is inheriting from this interact base, it'll call the activate function that's specific to that script. Really, really neat. So in here, we're going to need a private variable now. Boolean activate. We're going to set this false when we first start to make sure. I know it's redundant, but I just do. So if activate else not activate. This is where we're going to put open. This is where we're going to put close. So I already wrote this part of the script out because it's kind of long. I'll go through and explain everything it does. So we're going to be using quaternions. And you're going to want to change these to whatever you named. All right. So quaternions are how we interpret the Euler angles, which is these angles represented in float numbers. Because angles aren't inherently seen this way, this is for representation and easy to understand means. You have to create a quaternion when you're doing a rotation using those angles. So this right here is basically just creating the target rotation, so the rotation that we want the door to move to, using the Euler angles that we are specifying in the inspector. And then we're just taking that and rotating it using a linear interpretation, so the lerp function that's built into the quaternion class. And we're using the transform.local rotation, so where the door is now, move it towards our target rotation, which is the quaternion that we created using our open angles. And then it's moving it by time.delta time using the open smooth. And this will open the door. And then for the close, we're doing the same thing. Just with the close Euler angles, or Euler floating points that we created before. So and make sure you change your values, or if you're typing it out, make sure you spell these right. There. So we can go ahead and test this out. First thing we're going to do, make sure that the door that you're rotating is set to not static. Make sure this is unchecked because it will not move if it's set to static. So let's see if it's working now. And it is not because we have not set our. Hold on, I'm going to go check. Right, so it's pretty simple. You just have to add the door script to the object. And it will change the open angles to something like negative 75 on the Y. Right. Change that back. So now, and it moves. And we can not close it. Oh, okay. So make sure you go back and name this a different name. This target rotation, it's basically using the same target rotation that was already made. That's my fault. Sorry, guys. Make sure you go back and change that to just like add like a number at the end. Make sure that this target rotation is not the same name as this one, the open. That should fix it. And it should open and close. And close. Okay. Basically, we shouldn't be setting this to true because there's no way to set it back to false in the script. So, easy way to fix this is to say activate equals not activate. So it'll be the opposite of whatever it is, and that way it'll switch back and forth like a trigger. And this should fix. There we go. So you can interrupt it at any point and it'll smooth back. And what we can do is we can increase the open and close smooth to whatever we want. It opens, closes real fast. Yep. So we got the basic functionality of the door down. And it's already customizable. You could have any sort of 3D model come in, and no matter what the XYZ is, we can change each value individually, which allows us a lot of dynamic and customization. And we can change the speed at which it opens and the speed at which it closes. So, what should we do next? How about we add some sound? Go ahead and import any sounds that you want to use. You get some free ones online. I happen to have some assets that I have bought myself, so I'm going to go ahead and import those. So I've imported my sound effects, and hopefully you've imported some that you are going to use. And we're going to go ahead and get back into the door script. And we're going to add some variables. So we're going to use one audio source attached to the door. And I have a So we're going to use one audio source attached to the door. And we're going to use audio clips and switch out the audio clips when we need to. So create a private variable. Hit it again. This is going to be the audio source. Just name it audio. Doesn't have to be fancy. And we're going to set that when we start. We're going to use get component and the audio source attached to the door. Okay. Got the audio source. And we're going to add an audio clip. Open sound. Close sound. So 2 audio clips, 1 open and 1 for close. And we're going to be setting it and playing it inside the activate. So you want to say if activate. You want to do this before you change activate. Set the sound. We say if activate. Say audio dot audio clip or dot clip, sorry, equals. So if it's activate, it means it's already open and about to switch to close. So you want to set the clip to the close clip, close sound. And then we want to play audio dot play. Else. So if it's not active, or if it's not activated, then we're gonna same thing, but we're gonna set it to the open sound and then play it. So this already will give us the audio functionality. Now when you go back to the script, make sure you set the audio. One. Now let's test it out. Oh, make sure you attach an audio source. My fault. I like to switch these up. Right. It's working. I don't know if you can hear the sound very well, but the open audio is playing the closed sound. So what we can do is we can delay the sound if we want to have some sort of delay when it's closing, because you don't want the closed sound to play as soon as it starts to close. So what we can do is we can do when it's closed, you can add another variable, make it a float, and this only works for the sound. So we'll add a float and we'll say close sound delay. We'll set it to equal to just as default. And you can change this function here, not this one, but this one, to play delayed. And pass in your, name it, close sound delay. And it will delay the sound for you. Oh, and what I did before, I just switched it from 2D spatial blend to 3D so that it would have some sort of spatial blend. You might be able to hear it better if I do it like so. I'll set it to 2D again. And then I just change the minimum and maximum distance, the values that I find cool for doors in video games. It's 0.2 for the minimum and 50 for the maximum. And it's set to logarithmic roll off. And I just unchecked play on awake because we don't want it to play right away. Alright. And go and set our close sound delay. Let's say 0.6, and we'll change this to 4. See if that matches. So it's going to take a little troubleshooting. There you go. So there you have it. If you want me to keep making tutorials, just like it, message me, do. It's my first video, so go easy on me. Very first, go easy on me. But yeah, enjoy, guys. I'll put the link to the script in the description.